Hello, everyone. My name is Julianne Meyer, and I am the host of Own Your Wellness. I am excited to be back in California where there is Wi-Fi, and I can have this amazing conversation with this amazing young lady. Her name is Felicia Miller Johnson, and I got to tell you, I am already excited and so pumped for this because I can feel her energy through the computer, and it is absolutely fun and flow and just amazing. So, without further ado, let me just bring her on. Hello, how are you?
Aloha, Julie. Aloha, everyone. Nice to be here.
I am so excited to have you here today, as I have mentioned.
I
So,
am fine.
I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself and your own wellness journey.
Well, aloha, everyone. So, my name is Felicia, and that means happy. But there was a time that I was not so happy. So, I grew up as this military child and I moved around from place to place. But then there was also this expectation as I grew up that I would always get straight A's, that I am the smart one. If you put in terminology from today, I was like Google, Siri, all that like put together, YouTube, and it was like Brain, which was my nickname. She knows the answers, ask her. So that came with the expectation that you always got to have the answers, right? So doing that, that brought success over time because I was successful, got the A's and all that. Then fast forward, you graduate from college and you get your first career, and you're like, okay, all the expectations that come with that. Fast forward, you get married, all the expectations that come with that. Fast forward, you get pregnant and you're going to have some kids, put all that together. So eventually it became, as I like to call it, my Jesus moment
Hmm.
because I was living somewhere doing all these things that weren't necessarily on my things that I thought I was going to be doing. And
Hmm.
I threw up my hands on the wheel one day. I was like, okay, God, you're going to have to show me because I'm not understanding where I'm going. And then that's when I got a message that said, you've heard the term work smarter, not harder, which is what I'd always heard about, being smart. Felicia, you can live smart. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Live smart. Right. So that's what started me on my journey to live smart. So SMART, it stands for an acronym. So a lot of people probably have heard SMART goals because I came from the
Hmm.
business world, specific, measurable, actionable, bound, relatable, um, and time, realistic and time bound. All those things.
Hmm.
But what it meant for me was I had to learn how to see myself and
Hmm.
awaken to that. Who is Felicia? Like, what's that mean? And so that started with even going down to the basics of my name, which means happy. But like I said, I was not happy at that time. And so then it became, what else is there about me? And that went from studying numerology, studying, astrology, learning about my core strengths and values, and all of that, learning about who I am and awaken to that. There was a time that my name was not even powerful to me because how many of y'all have heard that terminology by Felicia?
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Of
Uh-huh.
course. I feel bad for the Karens out there, but I didn't even think about bye, Felicia.
Well, it used to be a trigger for me, Julie.
Yeah, I don't blame
And here's
you.
why, because if you're familiar where that comes from, it comes from the movie Friday. And
Yep.
in that movie Friday, Felicia was a crackhead, drug,
Mhm.
and basically she was being dismissed, and that's why it
Mhm.
was bi. And so that was a trigger to me because I didn't want to be dismissed. I'm like, I'm not a crackhead. That's not who I am. And
Mhm.
so I had to reclaim my power in my name. And I said, no, all they're saying is buy happy.
I like that.
And or they're saying buy to their own happiness, whichever way that was at the time. But I had to learn how to see myself and awaken to that. Then I had to learn how to master my emotions.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is that I wasn't tapping into that. Coming from a military background, it was about just getting focused on the goal, plant that flag up on the mountain, keep it moving. And if you had an emotion, it might have been anger. But as you can see, for those that are on, camera, I'm an African American female. So I was avoiding that too because I didn't want to be deemed
Mm.
as the angry black woman. So I would just squash all of that down. I had a poker face that nobody's like, "Dad, what is she thinking?" You wouldn't know. But I would also not really be able to describe my emotions. A lot of times when you ask people how they're feeling, they'll describe a situation. They won't give you a feeling word. It's not, I'm angry, frustrated, bored, content, excited, positive
Mhm.
intention. No, it would be like, I'm feeling, and then blah, 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 the situation. So I had to learn how to be able to tap into my emotions, put a word to it, and then be comfortable in that spot, in that position, and then go from there. But then I realized when I was being, in my emotions or something like that, well, what is it that you want? And that's where the A came in for me. It's the ask, believe, and the receive.
Mm.
What do you
I
want,
love
Felicia?
that.
Because I was frustrated about, I thought my life wasn't where I wanted it to be.
Mhm.
But it's like when you ask about something, do you believe you can really receive it? How many times you ask somebody, say, "Oh, what do you want?" But they'll start with what they don't want. I don't want this. I know I don't want that, but they can't tell you what they do want. And so I had to figure out what it is that I wanted. And then when I figure out what I want, do I really believe that I can receive it?
Mhm.
Then the next thing I had to figure out was, okay, the message came to me through the whole different world show of the relax, relate, and release. A sister girl was busy doing,
Yeah.
do. Capricorn background, I'm gonna get the job done.
Mhm.
But I was so busy doing that I wasn't being a human being. Because
Yep.
remember before, I wasn't tapping into my emotions. It was like, "Oh, I'm just here. I'm just used to people expecting me to do tasks versus just, you know what, I can just be me. I can just be present, which is connected back to the see yourself and awaken. I had to learn how to forgive. I had to learn how to release things that were no longer serving me.
Mm.
And that meant learning about meditations. So, like, for example, a lot of times people think, meditation that you're just simply sitting and maybe doing a mudra pose. But I was like, that's not always how I am. I like to listen to music and be dancing around and singing and all that. So that was like a form of meditation for me.
Mhm.
I learned to appreciate my Hawaiian spirit because I used to live in Hawaii. That's one of the places that I had the pleasure of living. And it was about the Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Because there was some stuff that I'm like, yeah, I gotta put this into my life, right? And then finally it was like, okay, you got all that. But then you know what, Felicia, you still need to talk wisely. And that was what the T was. And this was thanks to whole Star Wars and School of Yoda. In that it was like, what are the words are you saying that are disempowering? For
Mm.
example, try. I mean,
Yes. That was my least favorite.
try, as Yoda says, do or do not. There is no try.
Mhm.
But when you literally look up the definition of trying, it says difficult to endure. So
Ah.
now tag that to anything that you want to say. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to start a new podcast. I'm trying to start this new business. I'm trying to do this and that. You're basically already speaking struggle.
Mhm.
And it includes the things you're not only saying in your head, which is a lot of times what imposter syndrome and what I help my clients with, to then what you actually then speak verbally out loud. Then what you speak out loud is what you attract back to you.
Mhm.
So I had to, listen to myself in those words that I would speak. That goes along with should. That's another one. You should do this. You should do that. It don't even feel right right energetically anymore.
I know, it's like
Right. So it's like should. I'm like basically I was in class and I was like, that's shame and could. That's what should mean.
Ooh. Ooh, I got the God bumps. That was good.
I was like, no. So between all of that, that was the journey that I went on in order to ascend back to new levels of success. And success was what I deemed it to be, not what someone else deemed it to be. And so then eventually it was like, you know what? There are other individuals that I'm sure that were like me that had these same experiences. I have the ability to coach, and that's part of what I'm here for. So I was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to help people do. I'm going to inspire people to live smart and ascend to new levels of success. So overall, that is my wellness journey.
That is so beautiful. Oh my goodness. I'm glad you didn't leave any of that out because that was fun for me. And I have a million different little questions. But first,
Yes.
I want to tell you something that I heard just actually this morning from a really good friend of mine. And
Mhm.
she said something to the effect of, not everything that serves you is for your ultimate purpose. And I was like, wow, that's good.
Exactly.
I was like, I'm gonna put that on something because I've fallen into that trap so many times. Oh my goodness.
Uh-huh.
But so you started on this journey, and I mean it's a journey. It's never ending. There's always stuff that comes up and room to grow. And that's kind of the point of living, is expansion. So how do you help other people sort of recognize where they need to start?
Listening to them.
I
'Cause
mean, no, go ahead.
I'm gonna say listening to them because, like I said, now one of my abilities as being a clear audience is that sound and words are very in tune to me. And so when
Hmm.
I'm listening to people, a lot of times that's what people are frustrated about, is that they're not feeling heard.
Hmm.
And so when you start there and you then mirror that back to people, like, did you
Hmm.
notice you said this? Or tell me more about that. And they
Hmm.
talk more. And so then you figure out where they're at and then where they may be, as what I say on the Live Smart journey, that can give them a word or intuitive feedback, as I like to call it, a message that'll help them right where they're at in order to
Hmm.
get to the next step on their journey and on their path.
For the guests that are watching and not familiar with clairaudient, can you explain that?
Yes. So it is a tapping into the abilities of, I receive messages where everyone doesn't necessarily hear them, but I hear them
Hmm.
in my head. And it's a confident knowing. And
Hmm.
so I that shows up in songs, TV shows, movies, and stuff like that. So it can be synchronicity moment where you're talking to someone and you're hearing this and like, oh, we were just talking about that. And like I can look at that whole big perspective and then put that together. And so how it shows up in my coaching is that when people, as I say, I'm listening to them and talking to them, I then to get a message from Emmanuel spirit teams, I call them God, to where it's like,
Hmm.
okay, how am I able to connect and serve this individual right here? And then I'm able to just give them the message that I may receive. And so that is what clairaudient is.
That is beautiful. So, my question for you is, obviously, this is something that is a gift. And I'm imagining for you, it's something that you've developed over time and learned how to work with. Is that
Mhm.
accurate?
It is. It
So my question then is, because you were the brain and known as that,
uh,
was that difficult for you to try and connect these two seemingly opposite sides of yourself? Or did it just naturally flow together for you?
yes and no. In the sense of I was having those experiences, but I
Mhm.
sure as heck wasn't telling anybody.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so what I give you the idea is because I was operating in the business world, it's
Mhm.
very, as you say, maybe left brain. And so you're communicating, doing all those different things, and you're having these experiences. But remember, I'm also thinking like, okay, you're an African American female. Now, do you really want to add this concept to
Mhm.
where a lot of people has fear surrounding that? It
Mhm.
may be, like voodoo, witchcraft, or whatever they're thinking is like a demonic spirit. And it's like that's not what it is. That's not how I serve. And so
Mhm.
I ran from it very much so. In addition to that, as a Christian, and I was coming up in the Christian religion, definitely wasn't anything that I was doing in that moment. But the irony of that is that it's a connection with God. Like he's talking to me. That's where it's coming from. But then when you put it out loud and it's outside of the parameter of religion or church, then
Mhm.
it becomes something else. And at the time, I was like, I don't have time for that. I was scared of that. I was very fearful. Put it
Yeah.
this way, my husband and I had been together for over 24 years, and I didn't come out of this spiritual broom closet to him, as I say, until January of this year.
Wow. Oh my goodness, you just came out.
Right? But that's because
Wow.
I had to go through the shadow work
Yeah.
of working on myself and all those different things. But it was always coming out because when he he used to jokingly call me at the time, "Oh, we all know you're a witch," right? But that was such a trigger. I'm like, "No, I'm not. Stop saying that." But I
Mhm.
wasn't doing anything, saying at least as I thought, doing anything or saying anything. But it was like it finally got to the point where I didn't say anything.
Mhm.
And then we went to the spiritual city of New Orleans because I got a message when he wanted to go because he hadn't been. And I was like, we hadn't planned for this. It was so last minute. I was like, we hadn't planned for this. Where are we going? And then Emmanuel sent me a message. There's a reason why you have to go. So I was like, okay. And the reason why I had to go is where we had that conversation.
Oh,
And it
wow.
was just so like, yeah, I knew.
I love that. Oh, I'm so
Not,
glad.
not surprising, yeah.
Yeah.
But I had to go through all my shadow work and all those different things. And then it became freeing. And I started putting that into the coaching. Then I, started doing that to where it's now, part of my podcast and shows and all those different things. Cause it was like, this is just how my gift
Mhm.
shows up.
Mhm.
And when I created my business Sevenfold Coaching, I even asked, I said, what do I call my business? And he gave me Romans 12, um, verses 6 through 8. And it was like, oh, all the 7 gifts. It was about the
Mhm.
sevenfold coaching. And so it was like, okay. And prophecy and leadership and serving and all that was a part of that. And those are the values that I wanted to have for my business and how I operate. And so it was like, okay, here it is. Will there be people that don't understand or not ready to receive? Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's like you can no longer allow that to stop you from serving those that are now ready on their path and their journey to help them. And so here I am.
I'm curious too.
Mhm.
Now that you're more open about your ability, do you tend, or maybe even before you were open about it, do you tend to attract people who with similar gifts?
Yes.
Had a feeling.
Well, it's interesting because, there are similar gifts, and now especially since my show's, like, on LinkedIn and where it's more business-oriented people, that's why
Mhm.
I chose it there because that's where I was at,
Yeah.
where, it's like you're hiding in plain sight, and so now you have people that are kinda drop into your DM, won't be
Uh-huh.
anywhere on their profile. "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I have this ability," or this, and this, and it's like mhm, and it's just giving them comfort of knowing that you're
They're
not
not alone.
alone.
Yeah.
Right, you're not crazy,
Mhm.
and that was I said, "What did I want at that time when I was going through that?"
Mhm.
Yeah, it could be challenging, it could be fearful and scary, like, "Oh my gosh," because this is my profession, this is my business, if I do this
Mhm.
wrong, back to the imposter syndrome, like, you gotta have it perfect because you may not get a second opportunity to do this, and so now it's just be who you are, be
I
Felicia,
love that. Yeah.
know?
Well, you've earned the right to, my goodness.
Indeed. So yes, it has been interesting how many people have been attracted to me like, "Yes."
They're like, "Me too."
Exactly, exactly. Mhm.
Yeah, I just and it's funny too, there's so many people out there that use gifts that they don't call it that. And, they just sort of, "Oh, I don't know how I knew that," or because they don't wanna think about it, you know?
It's the unconscious knowing, but that's
Yeah.
like, that's what clairvoyance, the knowing without knowing.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
like one of my favorite scenes, like I said, because I'm all about the practical and how people can see this. There is a movie that I love called The Last Dragon. It's a
Mm.
classic, cult classic in like the African American culture. And the very first scene in that movie, you see him going around in this karate studio, and his master is shooting bow and arrows at him.
Mhm.
And so he's going through station, and he chops down these bow and arrows. But then there was it a blue one? I think it was blue. And he caught that one. And so his master comes to him and he says, "How did you know that was the blue one?" And he says, "Master, I do not know." And he proceeds to say, "You do not know? You do not know. So then he drops to his knees and he thinks his master is mad at him because he didn't have an answer as to why he didn't chop down that one and knew that that was a blue one. And as they call it, he had reached that upper level
Mm.
where his mind, body, and soul had became one. He had a knowing without knowing. And that's what you want to get to. It's like the knowing
Mm-hmm.
without knowing. It's just the inner, you're connecting back to the source. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the answer. That's the one. But a lot of times we think we have to logically always explain everything.
Well, it's interesting that you would say that too, because science is finally catching up with Eastern cultural, phenomenons that have been around forever. Or even the fact that chicken soup, why did we give people chicken soup when they don't feel well? Well, they did some chemical tests on it a while back, and it turns out that it actually does help you to make, feel better. There's something
Mhm.
in it. So, there's just things that we just know without having to explain it.
Mhm.
I don't know where
Mhm.
that came in. Like, you've got to prove everything and it has to be proven this way. I don't know where that came from, but it's very limiting.
Very, very much so.
Very
And so it's
limiting.
just when people are not able to explain why they do something or what, the case may be,
Mhm.
they think it, oh, well, that's not valid. And that's not the case at all. It very much
Yeah.
is valid because you're connecting back to the source. So knowing without knowing.
Mhm.
It's the same
Well,
way, yeah, you come across something and you be like, mm, something's not right. You're in a
mhm.
room or you connect with the person, just something. We call it my gut's telling me.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. My gut told me, or I wish I would have. I
I don't know
knew
why I
that.
didn't follow my instinct. Exactly. Like you
Yeah,
knew
exactly.
already, but you didn't
Yeah.
trust it.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's always been kind of it's an energy thing. I mean, it all comes down to energy. So anything in the physical realm starts in energy first. Everything is energy, but
Everything is
anything that
it.
becomes real had to come from energy first. And it's like, it took me a long time to really grasp that. But then my teacher explained to me a long time ago, he's like, well, and this is such the most obvious answer ever, but when you feel somebody staring at you and you turn and you look and you didn't know, but you can feel it somehow. Like, what is that? Energy.
Energy. Because we're all connected.
Exactly.
It's the vibration. I don't know, have you ever seen the video about the tuning forks and that whole experiment?
I don't think I have. I
Okay.
want to see that now.
Yeah. So there is this video that and this goes to science and physics. If you have a tuning fork and you hit this tuning fork, it starts to vibrate and makes this sound.
Hmm.
Well, as soon as you put up a tuning fork that you did not hit, just close in the vicinity, it
Hmm.
starts to make the same sound and they start to vibrate on the exact same sound. Energy, the flow.
Exactly.
You didn't touch it, but just being in that sphere, it took on that energy. And that's what it is. It's a real thing. Like I said, when you connect with somebody and you're just like, like how you introduced in the video. Like we're not even in the same room, but you're like, just something about the video screen, the vibe, like I'm sensing the energy.
Yep.
It's the whole instinct. It's like,
Hmm.
this is not safe. This is safe. This is comfortable. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah,
we're
I
not.
can't put my finger on it.
Look, and we say it all the time. How many times you say, "We're just not vibing."
Yep. Yep,
Vibing is
exactly.
vibration, which is energy. So, like,
Literally.
that's what you're saying. Literally, that's what you're saying. Like, we're just not
I'm
in sync.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I'm always talking about how our language actually talks about these bigger principles, whether we're aware of it or not. Or, talking about our levels of energy, when we're happier and that's a higher vibration, I'm high as a kite, or, or I'm down in the dumps. I mean, we're even just the way we talk about how we're feeling, we talk about highs and lows, things like that. It's just fascinating to me how that ends up working out, and we're not even paying any attention.
Mhm. And
It
that's
just
what
is.
it is. And so that's where you want to start paying attention to that.
Mm,
So, like, for example, the vibrations. You start awakening to the fact of if there's a particular person, friend,
hmm.
that every time you get off the phone, do you feel drained?
Yeah.
because the energy of what they're saying is
Hmm.
not vibing or resonating with you. How about a slow song? It's a breakup song. You listen to that song, you're right back in that moment
Yeah. Well,
because
crying.
you're vibing. You went back to the low vibe, energy that's connected
Hmm.
with that. And so that's what it is. It's just like, what are you allowing in your body?
Yeah.
The news. If you watch the news all the time, and you're like, why do I just feel so?
Yeah. Why do
Check
you
that,
think?
check that because there's usually information they're talking about murders or this, and it's
Hmm.
just constant into your body, and it's just like draining you. The downward
Yeah.
spiral. It's not, as they say, it's not serving you. It's not high vibe. So then that's
Yeah.
when you make those conscious decisions of like, what is serving me? What is giving me energy?
Hmm. No, those are important questions too. And I always think about, or I don't, I mean, I think about this all the time, but it's that we don't just eat food, but we feed our brain stuff
Mhm.
all the time. So what are we feeding our brain? Because you can't squeeze lemon juice out of an orange. So if you're putting something inside of you, what you're going to squeeze out is what you put in.
Right? But we've done those. I love when you talk about food because we've done that. How many would they talk about comfort foods?
Hmm.
Like if you go back to chicken soups, oh, it's just my mama's chicken soup is this, but it's about the memories, about the
Yeah.
experience and all of that. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that feels good to me.
Hmm.
There's also been times when you ate something, and you're like, oh, I just feel so blah.
Yeah, exactly. Heavy,
Mhm.
tired, all that.
Like, what was the composition of that? Was it serving you? Did it align with your body? So,
Exactly.
mhm.
Well, on that note, we do need to go to a commercial break, so we'll be
Yeah,
back in just a minute, okay?
absolutely.
Oh, I don't want to go to commercial. I'm having so much fun. I know you guys are too. But as I mentioned, we do need to go to commercial. But before we do, I want to say hello to everybody who is watching us live. You are always appreciated, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Now, you can vibrationally align your aura. You can gain a larger and spiritual perspective on life, relationships, God, people, wellness, and money. You can also have moments of meditation and reflection any time of the day. And reading the thrilling, adventurous, and mystical story of Shiga will just add more faith to your daily experience of the mystery of the universe.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
As human beings, we are meant to thrive in an environment where true love is shared, where we are welcome just as we are, a space we connect with others with the single purpose to find God as love within. A place we learn to raise our consciousness and vibration for happiness, wellness, and wealth creation. Transformative, an online spiritual gathering for everyone. This invitation is sent to you by www.livingfaithschool.org.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, my name is Julianne Meyer, and I am the host of Own Your Wellness. And today's special guest is Felicia Miller Johnson. Let's bring her back on. Hello there. How are you?
Well, aloha, everyone.
I just wanted to, well, at first I wanted to put this up there because I want to make sure Helene saw that.
Yes, I saw she was on Facebook. I was like, but I'm not on Facebook right here. Let her know.
But I know that, well, first of all, I want people to be able to find you. So one of the best places is going to be through your website.
Yes, Sevenfold Coaching.
I love that. And you and I were talking before the show about something that you have that is new. And I would love for you to share with the audience about that.
Absolutely. So I have a new program called Live Smart Together. And so what I realized is that everything is connected, right? And so I wanted to give an opportunity for us to come together and co-create with more individuals. And so Live Smart Together is an opportunity for individuals to come into a Zoom room for us together. And we have, instead of the hot seats, I call it the smart seat. And so someone that is looking for information or inspiration in order on their smart journey, in order to ascend to new levels of success, they'll basically have a coaching session right there with me. What the benefit of that is that there's other individuals that will be part of that, that co-creates with us, and we have all that energy together. And like I said, they might hear something, they're like, oh, I was experiencing that too. That was actually a word, for me. And so that is a monthly subscription that I am now offering, that people can come and then, they can be in the smart seat and live smartness into new levels of success.
I love that. And so to become a part of that, they just need to go to the website.
Yes, sevenfoldcoaching.com. And then when you enter that, you just sign up for the group sessions, and then that'll get you started. They're being held on the fourth Sunday of the month at 11 a.m. Central Time. And then we'll come together. And like I said, it's, I think that one is a 2-hour session. So whomever, gets in that seat at that time, we'll get the feedback. And as it grows, eventually it'll get to a point where not everyone will be able to get into the smart seat at that time. But again, everyone still can be inspired by what they witness and hear from the other people that are technically in the smart seat.
Yeah, I love that. There's a term that just keeps popping into my head and it's driving me crazy. So I'm just going to share it. And it was something that I learned from, what's it called? A mastermind group that I used to be a part of. And, it was the hot seat in that group, but, it's borrowed benefits, and borrowed benefits means you don't even need to be in the seat, but you're going to get value from what is being talked about and shared.
Yes.
And even, and here's the most beautiful thing about it that is really cool about when you do this kind of group, like you mentioned, the energy alone. But also, even if you don't think it applies to you, I guarantee you there is a message that is in there for you. You just have to be open and listen. That's it. Just open and listen.
Yeah. So I encourage you to come with no expectations, but just be open to, as I say, the intuitive questions and the intuitive feedback, and being able to receive the message that you were meant to receive.
I love that. Oh, that's so powerful and exciting. I'm glad that you're doing that, because I know that you're changing the world this way. So,
well, it was interesting because it became me also continuing to have more and more confidence in the gifts.
exactly.
Because there was a time that I had did what some people would say it was like a reading, and I had these messages that were going, And it was like, okay, Emmanuel, I don't know what's what for who. And like sometimes it could be like, do we just say this? I really don't know the people. So I was just really, I was like, no. So I'm just gonna stick to the one-to-ones. Like that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But then as you continue to grow, and I recently had one of the final kind of confirmations is that I went to Teresa Caputo's live event
Uh-huh. I
here
love
in
her.
yeah, that was great. So she has a show on TLC, The Long Island Medium. And even that was a synchronistic moment because I had talked with a friend who I had just met that week at a networking event. And she asked me, "Have you ever heard of this?" And at the time, because remember I was squashing my kids, I was like, "No, I never watched that show, never heard of it." And she's like, "Yeah, you should, check her out." So I said, "Okay." The very next day on the radio, which I just happened to be listening to that day, it was like, "Oh yeah, Teresa Caputo is coming to Little Rock next week." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, of course she is. Got it." I get my ticket and I go to the show, and if you are familiar with this, she's in this big stadium and all of that, and she winds up doing a reading for someone like a row before me, and then she kind of, as she calls, piggyback to a family behind us. The next thing I know, she's saying, "May I ask you a question?" And I said, "Okay." And that was the conversation, was that she basically confirmed of, "I'm attracted to you, but I'm also sensing that there is this border. Do you know what that means?" And I said, "Yes, it does. I do know what that means." And I knew, that's what I said, I have gifts that I'm not necessarily
Mm.
really telling people about. Mind you, I'm in this big stadium and like now it's auditorium. So now it's like, and the
Yeah.
camera's there. So like,
Yeah.
well, there's no more hiding now for sure. Cause here it
Put you on
is.
blast.
Right. She confirmed it because my spirit, she messaged, but I didn't have a specific message, but the message, I mean, as far as my deceased family members, but it was about release the fear, believe, and just go forth. And it was like, okay. And so that's when it was having it more public, having the podcast, actually doing readings where people would see like how it is for her.
Mhm.
Like people will see there's no longer hiding about that. And so that's where it just continued to be like, yeah, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So then it was like, all right, I'm gonna go to the group things, and I did one recently, and it was, I just was like, yeah, okay, now I'm flowing, and this is how it works, and this is how I'm able to help people, and I'm excited about the journey that I'm taking with that.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I love it when people step into their gifts and step into being who they are, because when you embrace who you are in this life, it's like you open up the door and allow other people to do the same thing. And I just think that that's such a beautiful thing, because we're so busy trying to hide ourselves. Like that was
No,
me. That
yeah.
was me for the longest time. I didn't call it the spiritual broom closet, but I call it the closet. Like when I jumped out of the spiritual closet,
Hmm.
it
Yeah,
was terrifying.
yeah. But it's like being here in this, this moment. So like right now, both you and I are here. And
Mhm,
as I look to, the comments with Helen, like she's like, now I'm saying I see more of all I need to work on me. See,
mhm.
we're connected, co-creating. So now she would go forth and ascend to new levels of success. You will
Exactly.
go forth. I will go forth. All from this experience of us talking to each other. And that's where it was like, okay, that's what it's about. We're here supposed to support one another,
Mhm.
ascend the consciousness level. And then in order to do that, you got to walk in the gifts that you have.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a question that is
Mhm,
kind of interesting, I suppose.
mhm.
It's, does it matter? Like, does it matter what you eat and how much you sleep and all of those types of things for you to be able to be fully present and use your gift?
And the short answer was no, in the sense of if I had a cookie, right before, like, that's not gonna stop the reading, or anything like that. Um, but at the same time, I didn't have, like, a glass of wine or something like that, and they're gonna go do a reading.
Yeah.
I think of it as when I'm connecting with Emmanuel, my spirit teams, I want to be clear and free.
Mhm.
There is no judgment that comes, with that. So it all just depends on who you are, and are you doing those things as a form of escapism?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. A lot of people are. And it's interesting because escaping can be anything, even just watching TV.
Mhm. And there's a reason why they call it vegging out.
Exactly. Never even thought about that, but yes.
Mhm. But then it becomes, like you said, do you have to think about, what is it about this show? Is this show serving me? Is it not serving me?
Mhm.
Is it causing me to veg out? I don't want to think about this. I'm just going to put this on. Is it something else? So, like, for example, there was a time I used to watch, like, Family Feud.
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm going to laugh. Like, I just want to have a joke and just laugh. But that was serving more of my higher good.
Mhm.
There was a time back in the day I used to watch, like, the show Murder, She Wrote and Law& and Orders and all of
Yep.
that, but I'm no longer watching them because I realized that it was about death and murders and all those, and so it was like, "Okay, that's no longer serving, me," so I no
Yeah.
longer watch that. So it just comes down to just asking yourself, "What is the intent of doing this? Is that going to keep me from operating in my gift? Is that gonna keep me from ascending to new levels of success?"
Mhm.
And if the answer is yes, then you got some shadow work to do.
You've mentioned shadow work a couple of times, and I'm not sure that everybody's familiar with that term. Can you explain that a little?
Yeah, it's those things that you want to improve about yourself. So that's how a lot of people say, "Oh, self-development or
Mhm.
personal development." But it's those things that shadow work usually is in the dark. Usually
Mhm.
something that other people don't really know, that you hide from
Mm.
other individuals. Like, "Ooh, if they knew this about me." You keep it in the what? The shadows, in the dark. And so you want to work on those things.
Yeah.
And so that's what shadow
Integrate.
work is.
Ah, yes. Yes. No, I like your description. It's probably the best one I've heard yet.
Well, awesome. I'm glad that it's finding comfort,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
aligning
I
with
like
you.
that.
Mhm.
So, I know for most people, they have the voice, that little nagging voice that's always commenting and critiquing and, judging and saying, I like this, I don't like this, and all that stuff. I know for me personally, it takes me a little while to settle that little voice down so that I can just like think from a higher place. How do you do that?
Okay. So that sounds like the imposter that you might be having there. One of the tips that I talk about the imposter is give it a name, that voice. And here's what I mean by that. You remember when you used to be in trouble when you were a kid and like your parents would yell out your Julianne Meyer, if you don't da 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 da. Like when they call out your, as they say, they call out your full government name, it means pay attention.
Trouble.
You are not doing something you're supposed to be doing. So by naming it, it's recognizing, okay, I know that you're here and I know that you're talking, but then that thank it, ho'oponopono, thank you, because in
Mhm.
essence, it's in a way of wanting to keep you safe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's risky. No, you know you don't want to really do. No, is wanting to keep you safe. So you just recognize, okay, thank you for that. However, I'm going to go forward from that. So that's one of those tips of just giving it a name and doing that. Another name that you can create is that when you're wanting to tap into your higher self.
Mhm.
Now, you've heard of, are you familiar with guardian angels?
Mm. Yep.
Okay. Generally speaking, most guardian angels, yes, but archangels.
Mm-hmm.
Most archangels, if you would look at their names, they end in EL.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to have a quick way to tap into your higher self, put EL at the end of your name. That person.
I like that.
Hmm. So it's
I've
like,
never heard
oh,
that one before. I like that.
yeah. So it's the EL. Put the EL at the end of your name, and I'm like, I'm talking to my higher self. And then that's just one way that you can do that. But I know for me, mine is her name is Sheila.
That's fun.
Right, because like I said, it was like, okay, who is this? And so my name
Well,
is
that's
Sheila,
the
which
thing. You might as well make friends because you're sharing a lot of space with them. So
they're always around. They are
Mhm.
there. Every
Yeah.
last one of us has a spirit team. Every last one of us has a guardian angel. On average, each person has at least 3
Mm.
on their spirit team. And so
Wow.
they're there. And I love what Helen says, like they're always laughing when you get to know them because they're there. They're waiting for you to communicate with them.
Mhm.
And it's like, tell me, are you there? And that's how I like find out about, as I was talking about my higher self, it's like when you communicate, and then it'll be something they'll show themselves. All of a sudden you'll look on something and the name will pop up on, oh, this is my name. And it could be anything. It could be David, Angela. They're regular names. It doesn't always have to be something unique per
Yeah.
se. And it's like having the confidence in the knowing about that because they are constantly showing us signs all the time. And that's what people don't usually see. It's like,
Mhm.
oh no, they pass it off as, oh, that was just a coincidence. Really?
I have a friend that's so funny. She sent me this meme the other day and was like, "Thank you for the sign, but I think I'll wait for a more signy sign."
Well, it's like, what is that? That the joke about like the person that was stranded on a desert island, and then God sent like all these various forms, sent the boat, sent
Yeah.
the helicopter, and there's like something else. He's like, no, no, waiting for the sign, waiting for the sign. Then Vicky like winds up dying, and then he
Uh-huh.
goes to heaven, and he has like, well, I was waiting for you. I'm so disappointed. Why didn't you come? And he was like, dude, I sent
Is it
a
3
helicopter, a
different?
boat.
Yep.
Oh, like I said, no, and you didn't catch it. And so it's many times that's the signs. And
Yeah.
what happens is that a lot of times people do not get there until, as they say, phrase like a 2x4 had to hit me upside my head to get it.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah, it's funny too because are you familiar with Pam Grout? She's an author. Anyway, she
um,
wrote this book. It's called E Squared, and it's really fascinating. It's all about laws of the universe and how real they are. And she does all these they're just a book of experiments for you to try to prove that the universe works in your favor. And one of them was to like wish for something like big.
mhm,
And so I did. I wished for something big. And then that day I was at a client's house and he gave me like, long story short, about $1,000 worth of clothes
mhm.
for me that were beautiful. And I was like, gee, thanks. And I didn't think about that as being the big thing that I just received. Hello. And my boyfriend said, wow, that's a gift from the universe. And I thought, oh my gosh, I needed him to say that for me to even notice that
Right.
that was exactly it. And then later on that night, I remembered I literally said the day before that I wanted new clothes, but I didn't want to pay for them.
See? And that's what I'm saying. Look, you gotta chill. That's how they work. They're listening and they hear, but then like you said, you don't really put it together.
Yeah.
That's why it goes back to the philosophy I was talking about in the Live Smart. Ask,
Hmm.
believe, and receive. Like
Yes,
that's what that is. You ask for something, believe you're gonna get it, and then you receive.
exactly. Well, we are almost out of time. Is there anything that you want to make sure that that you say to the audience or anything you want to share or reiterate? So I want to make sure we have a few extra minutes.
Yes. Live smart. Really simple. Live smart. And that means see yourself and awaken, master your emotions, ask, believe, and receive, relax, relate, release, and talk wisely.
I love that. And then also, I know that I'm putting up your website again. Um, I know that you're doing the group coaching, but you also do one-on-one?
I do. I do want a coaching, one-on-one coaching. And so that's also available on the website. So when you click in, just either select the private sessions or the group sessions.
And is there, you said you have a podcast?
I do. So it would be great to come and engage with me on LinkedIn. It's on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Central, and it's called Awe Intuitive Conversations. And so basically, it's things like this that I have a conversation with someone for the first time, and we just record it and do it live. But I also include, card readings or any particular message that is for the person at the time as well. So, yes, connect
I
with me
love that. And I do have a question about the different gifts, because there's different ones. And is it true, at least for you, because I mean, you can't speak for everyone, but
there.
that it's not just clairaudient, that you also experience other things as well?
Oh, definitely. You definitely have, and everybody has it. It's just a matter of if you tap into it more and acknowledge it, it then becomes stronger and stronger. So yes, do have other ones, but you'll find that there are certain ones that are stronger, just
Hmm.
really innate to you. And like clairaudient and clairvoyant are some of my two stronger ones that I have. And then there's also like viewing. There's sometimes I can see things as I'm learning more about see things in the future, portals as you call, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, and then the next day it'll be like exactly something that happened to that. So that's been an interesting one. They're
That
all interesting,
is.
but it's just like, oh,
No, I love that, because, I think a lot of times too is that we get stuck trying to put ourselves into certain boxes, and we don't pay attention that it's so, you don't have to name it. You don't have to, it just, you can
no,
develop
see that
whatever it is.
you just said something really important, Julie. Is at the time I was having those experiences, and when I was telling my husband, like when we met, I've always described it as a voice told me.
Hmm.
But I never used the term clairaudient.
Yeah,
So, like
exactly.
later on, as you get into those world and you learn these words, then you use it for that. But it
Hmm.
is just your knowing. What do you resonate with? What, do you just have these feelings? Do you take on people's emotions? Do you smell something and you're like, oh, that reminds me of, that's like clairsentient.
Hmm.
All these different senses that we have available to us. It's just that's how the message is received in our energy, how it connects with us, and then
Hmm.
how we can then communicate that out back to people. So, but yes, we all have it.
That's beautiful. On that
Mhm.
note, we are going to have to end the show for tonight. I just want to say thank you, Felicia, so much for being here. You have been absolutely amazing. I just appreciate you sharing yourself with us today.
Well, thank you for co-creating this experience with me, and for those that have been engaging with us online, and for those that will watch on the replay.
Exactly. Awesome. Have a great night.
You too.
And unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for tonight. So we will be back next week. Enjoy your weekend, everyone. And don't forget to go check out her website. We'll be back later. Bye now.